them NASA jokes. You get 5 picture of a satellite without bringing up a bunch of that CGI. Just a bunch of cartoons all over the place. When I search satellites in space. Yeah, type that phrase into Google, folks. Let me welcome you to the satellite oath.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Flat Earth Podcast. I'm your co-host, Curious Jay, alongside me, Dave, from deep inside the rabbit hole. First episode of 2018. After a long delay, we are back. And, I got to take the heat for that. The holidays and work had me slammed busy, but we are back,
I'm
right?
not sure about that, Jay. I was texting you, and I got no response. I got nothing. I had a discussion with a couple of people thinking that maybe you got MK Ultra'd or something. Yeah.
No, of course not. No MK Ultra here. I remember I went into a Walmart. I asked this guy in the back, where something was. Next thing you know, I'm underground. I'm looking around. There's FEMA signs everywhere, and I lost a little bit of time there. A week or two just kind of disappeared from my memory, but. No, but nothing like that happened, I assure you. I have rethought the whole flat Earth thing, and I think it's more globe now. So it's a joke, folks. We're kidding. No, I was not MK Ultra. I'm fine, and I still do not subscribe to the sphere. How's that?
Very good.
Boom. Because I said a long time ago, if I ever show up and say it's back to being a sphere, I've been MK.
You've been tortured like Tiger Dan.
Right. Exactly. So the good news about us being off for the last 4 weeks or so is the fact that when we come back, we always have lots to talk about. This week is no exception to that. First thing I want to mention, we had another SpaceX launch this week.
Oh my God, did you see it?
I saw the one prior to this one, but I'm not sure if I've seen this one or not. Has there been a barrage of videos making fun of it?
It went up. They're supposedly launching a satellite, I believe. And I heard they lost the satellite. I didn't even follow that part because the launch was the worst thing ever, believe it or not. And then the landing, how they land the stages upright? They landed this one on land.
Yeah.
It literally looked like somebody took one of those sparkly, not the rockets, but a firework tube that just basically a fountain that just shoots out sparks. Turned it upside down, held their iPhone next to it, and landed it on the ground. I mean, that probably would have looked more realistic. It's the most ridiculous thing ever. And basically, I just can't take it anymore that people believe this stuff is real.
One of the things I've noticed, the last couple of SpaceX launches gets so much more flat Earth coverage from the flat Earth people, of course, dissecting it, than it does in mainstream. Now, NASA still gets all this mainstream publicity, but I've noticed that the mainstream coverage of some of these launches has actually decreased. I wonder if they're starting to, just say, this is kind of hokey looking, guys.
I think that most of the most of the sleeping public out there, which is most of the public, don't even realize that they claim that they're landing these things upright. I don't even think that anyone knows. Most people don't even know it.
Well, for the people I've talked to, it's like they know only because of those first couple that got heavily publicized on the news, et cetera, last year. But if you ask them, hey, did you see those last couple SpaceX launch landings or whatever, I think they'd say, no, what? So it's either one of two things. Either the mainstream news is just so bad and they're, oh, that's old news. We don't want to show this again. We've already showed you guys backwards landing your rocket, and they just don't want to cover it. Or they're like you and I, where they're like, this is so hokey. It's almost like the Chinese moon landing, where we're just not even going to cover this. But I have noticed a decrease in the coverage.
This last one was just pathetic. They landed it on land, but the one before that, or I don't know which one it was, where they landed it on the raft where it was blowing maybe 30 knots in high seas.
Yes.
And they're landing this giant upright, 40-ton tube on a raft that's pitching and rolling.
Right.
I mean, you couldn't even have it there strapped into position without it falling over.
No.
There's no way.
Yeah, it's every time I see one of those, I just laugh to myself. It's so bad, and I'm like you. I don't know how anyone.
I figured out why. I'm not sure why, but I know, or I'm not sure how, let's put it that way, is that when you confront somebody with something that is so ridiculous, like the landing of these rockets, or Jeff Bowman from the Boston bombing, the guy that had his legs blown off and has taken a wheelchair ride with a smile on his face, wondering what kind of pizza they're serving in the tent.
Right.
If you show it to somebody, I actually showed that picture to some orthopedic surgeons, and they said, well, this is the guy from the marathon. They wouldn't fake something like this, so it has to be real.
So they have to come up with outside the box, which equates to impossible scenarios to explain it, because their mind can't go to, well, they're lying.
Right, and then that's where people love NASA. NASA, it's America. NASA's the greatest. So they wouldn't fake this. Therefore, it has to be real, and people just suspend all logical thinking.
No, I heard you mention that just recently, that line of thinking. And honestly, I think that explains so much of the last 60, 70 years. I mean, go back when they're putting on the news, before the moon landing, when they're putting out things like the orbital mechanics, where you send something around and it falls around the ball, things like that. I'm sure there was probably at the time physicists, scientists that kind of thought, well, that seems impossible, but they wouldn't lie about it, so it has to work.
That's what holds people back from realizing it. People are trustworthy. Most people are trustworthy people, or they trust people.
Yeah.
Everybody gets the benefit of the doubt, and they can't imagine a deception on this scale. I mean, the deception is beyond what even we realize, because you really have to think about the scale of it. It's so big that it's hard to believe.
Right. And for someone who's not into all of this and who hasn't been woke, as they say, you're right. I think they're going to grasp for impossible solutions or explanations rather than question the source that gave it to them. And I just think that that's not only present today with things like SpaceX and that sort of thing. I think that's probably one of the main reasons that they've built this 60, 70-year space lie, that they've been able to get away with it.
What do you think about this for mind programming? I thought about this the other day. When I was growing up, I loved watching I Dream a Genie. Did you watch that show?
Yes, of course.
I Dream a Genie with Barbara Eden.
Yes.
And, it was NASA who one of the astronauts is married to a genie. Okay. So they're putting all of this insane, ridiculous magic in front of us. That way, when we watch NASA's stuff, we're like, oh, that's nothing. That's realistic, because we've been desensitized to utter nonsense.
Yeah. It's been poured into the culture, and we're so desensitized that it might raise an initial eyebrow at first, and then they go, well, with the fact that it's been seeped into your culture so much. Yeah, I think the influx of that in the culture over the last 60 years, and the feeling that they wouldn't lie about it, so it has to be true somehow. I think those are the two reasons that they've literally gotten away with this for so long. Speaking of the rocket launch, Dave, there was one about 3 weeks ago in Los Angeles off the coast. I think Jaron and a couple others did a video on this where tons of people, even celebrities out in California, were like tweeting their video that they took with their phone that looked so insane. It looked like a hologram UFO or something. And then, hour or so later, they say, oh, it's another SpaceX rocket launch that's actually projecting a satellite out. Do you remember this?
Absolutely. It was that phenomena has happened in the sky a bunch of times over the last 60 or 70 years. It happened, I think it was over Washington or somewhere important, but they all happen around the winter solstice too, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah.
I have a video on my YouTube channel, DITRH, for those of you that don't know, that has an amazing shot of it where whatever was in the middle of that plume looked to be pulsing out something.
Yes.
Did you see that?
Yes, I did. No, I did. Actually, a friend of mine, I didn't get to see it firsthand. A friend of mine, 2 minutes after it happened, literally, he was so freaked out, but he sent me like a video he texted me a video, and he's like, oh, and you can listen to the video that he sent me, and he's cursing, what the F, and oh my gosh, he's, honey, come look at this, reacting as any of us would. And I did see a very, very clear video, and I saw the pulsing and everything. And my theory on this is that this works twofold. Okay, so for those who don't believe it's UFOs and just believe there's a section of people that are just going to believe the cover story, right?
Well, hang on. When you say UFO, that's my pet peeve. It was a UFO.
Sure,
we don't know what it was.
Right. So
right, that's it.
So for those who don't think it was something weird and just believe it was SpaceX such and such, right? It serves the purpose of, hey, SpaceX is launching things all the time. I remember 6 months ago, I saw one just over the house and when I was living in Los Angeles, right? It just keeps the indoctrination going. However, for those who also think that, it's a conspiracy, like it's UFO stuff, right? It was a UFO thing. It also helps that cause. And I think what we're going to see is, I think they're going to ramp up this stuff, Dave. I think that we're going to see more and more stuff like a UFO, or was it a government rocket? I think that's going to, the frequency that these things happen are going to increase dramatically over the next year or so because of the increase in the flat Earth.
Or was it some technology like a Vimana or something, where they're trying to break through the dome? There's a YouTube channel called Effed Up World, which I'm kind of getting into. Guy's very religious, and he talks about the Bible, where they talk about wars in the stars and battles in the sky. And if you really look at a couple of those angles, it sure looks like there's some sort of battle going on. The symbolism with the SpaceX and NASA and the ISS, they're doing rituals up there, that match all this prophecy. I don't know what it is. I'm not saying any of that's real. I just find it fascinating.
Yeah, I need to check that out.
Effed Up World, EFTUPWORLD. You get chills when you watch some of his videos.
Wow, yeah, I definitely need to check that out because I can't comment. I would not put anything past them as far as that goes.
Following announcement has been paid for by
The Flat Earth Podcast.
You want to leave a digital voicemail for us? Head over to theflatearthpodcast.com and click on the blue link that reads, got a question? Send us a message.
You can do it from your iPhone or from your computer. First time you do it on your cellular phone, you'll have to download a little app. But after that, you can leave us all kinds of messages. If you want to be anonymous, you can make up a name, make up an email address. We don't care. We just want to hear what you have to say.
We'll do our best to play or answer these questions and comments on future episodes right here on the Flat Earth Podcast. Download the SpeakPipe app and check us out at theflatearthpodcast.com.
The Flat Earth Podcast.
If you're watching this audio on YouTube right now and you're not familiar with the world of podcasting, there's a far better way to listen to the Flat Earth Podcast each and every week.
Think of it like your TiVo or your DVR is to your television. You subscribe to whatever show that you like. Whenever a new episode comes out, it records it, downloads it, and notifies you that there's a new episode for easy listening anywhere. Another great feature on most podcast players is you could speed up if you want to hear stuff even faster, or more importantly, it has a jump back and jump forward 30 seconds so you could skip annoying announcements like this.
We're on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and so many more. If we're not on your favorite podcast app, send us a message and let us know to make sure we will be.
The Flat Earth Podcast.
I think things like the one over Los Angeles, where it was doesn't look like what they say it is, but they quickly have a story for it. I think situations like that, where I think we're going to see the volume turned up to 10 on the whole UFO stuff, because it helps them either way. Whether you believe the cover story or whether you think it's a UFO, most of the world thinks that the UFO phenomenon is something from outer space, and therefore it keeps space as real, and it keeps the globe intact, and it subtly fights off this rise in flat Earth.
Absolutely. I think it was seen between 500 miles apart. People were seeing it, where there's 31 miles of curvature in there. I don't know how that plays into what angle they saw it at.
Yeah, it depends on the altitude, I guess, that it would be at. But what struck me as so weird is that the angle that this thing was going was not how you would launch a satellite. It just did not work. There's no way. And plus, like you said, the little pulsing thing in the middle, all that, it definitely wasn't SpaceX doing what they say, but it wouldn't surprise me at all if it was obviously just a government experiment, right?
Something. While we're talking about this guy, I have a question for you. If the moon is in space, how can we see it during the day?
Okay.
If the moon is outside of our atmosphere, how come we can see it during the day? When the moon is up during the day, how come we can see it and not stars?
Yeah, it should be. Well, I guess, okay, like Jaron always does, playing devil's advocate, what science would say is because it's so much closer. The stars are so far away and the light's so faint that it's drowned out by the light of the atmosphere, but the moon is so close. Okay, I get it.
I've seen a crescent moon during the day, and you could see the unlit part of the moon, but you can see it with you shouldn't be able to see any of it. The sky, the blue sky, should be blocking what we're seeing.
Well, okay, so a better way to I guess, the way that I've asked that question is not just how we see it, but I've always said to myself, okay, wait a second, hold on. If it's daylight and the sky is blue, because the sun is lighting up our atmosphere, that's what we're told, right?
Yeah.
Then why, and I think we've even asked this on the show before, why are the craters of the moon blue?
Right.
Like during the day, when you see the day moon, it's the blue craters, right? So going with their situation, if you put the atmosphere around the Earth and you make it all blue, because people say, oh, well, it's like a filter. You're looking at it. And I'm like, well, okay, but the moon is white during the day.
Yeah.
So why didn't the blue filter that we're looking through, why didn't it turn the moon itself white? I mean, excuse me, why didn't it turn the white parts of the moon blue? Why did it just turn the craters from a grayish dark color to a dark blue? That doesn't make any sense. You can't hold a filter up over a camera and get it filter some things and not others.
And another thing about viewing the moon and celestial objects, I was watching some show the other day where they were talking about these telescopes on Earth that the way they're mounted to the ground, they have shock absorbers in them. They can't have a speck of vibration because that'll ruin the image. Okay, but what they're forgetting is that the Earth is spinning at 1,000 miles per hour, whizzing through space. The Hubble telescope is up there falling around the Earth at, faster than the space shuttle. I mean, not the space shuttle, the International Fake Station. And it's able to get deep space shots.
Yeah, of course.
Does anybody think about these things?
No one does.
And when you point it out to somebody, they're like, they can't fake all that. Well, that's too big of a thing to fake. Therefore, it has to be real.
Right. And you compound this craziness over, whatever it's been, 60, 70 years, and boom, they can. I'm not sure that there's anything too far-fetched at this point with the general public that they won't swallow.
Yeah.
Which is sad. It really is. So one of the things, I mentioned the conversation you and Jaron had the other night when you guys were trying to get the drone up and you guys just did like a Q&A and talked for a while. And I was listening to it, loved it. Great conversation, always is with you guys. And one of the things that was mentioned later on in the broadcast was the dome. And a lot of flat Earth conversations go back to, well, are you a dome subscriber or not? And I was glad that you supported the dome because I'm the same way. I think that there's something up there, whether it's energy or glass or whatever. There is something in a dome shape that's formed around us. So I was super happy to hear you mention that. There's a picture you wanted to bring up that's on our Facebook page, I believe.
Yeah, it's a picture. I forget who uploaded it first. Glowbusters mirrored it. It's been mirrored all over the place. It's basically somebody took one of those half balls, a glass dome, put it over a circle map, and then took a pen light and circled around. And the light and dark line was amazing. You could find this on our Facebook page. It's probably a little ways down at this point. And the video is right below it also, if you want to watch the whole video. But what it shows is how the sunlight, half the dome is dark and half of it's lit, or the map underneath it. But depending on where he has it, that shape doesn't make, like a lampshade circle. It follows, it morphs to the dome. So when the what I call the real sun is out towards Capricorn, out towards the edge, the light wraps around, leaving a dark spot in the middle and to the other side, but the outer edges remain lit, which kind of explains how Antarctica can be lit. It has long days, 17 hours of daylight or whatever.
Because it wraps around the perimeter.
Right. And many people think that there's still a midnight sun out there, but, Crow's Law proves that not to be the case, because Crow's Law says anything that is interesting can and will be filmed in high def.
Certainly. And I was about to say, as Crow's Law and Jaron's numerous videos that will point out, the only 24-hour daylight sun videos have been edited, snapped around. There's missing time, etc. So, yeah. And if for those of you who want to see the image that we're talking about and back it up and listen to what Dave just said, it was posted on the Flat Earth Podcast Facebook page on January 12th. So you can check that out. Yeah, I think it's amazing how many things. I was the one that suggested, I guess, a year or so ago, for Jaron to order one of those glass domes, because it was the star trails that I saw would actually spin the other way through one. And so he ordered one, started testing it with a laser. Now you've got a lot of people shining lights through them and doing all these tests. And I just think it's awesome. I really do.
When we talk about the dome, is the sky above us in a dome shape? Does it, a flat ceiling where the edges come down? I kind of lean towards that. But your personal view, you're looking through atmosphere, the amount of light, the distance light can travel, the distance that you can see is equidistant in all directions. So wherever you are, there is a personal dome, which I guess Jaron calls it that, or I think that's a common term now, which is, the limit of your vision in all directions. So that creates a dome.
Right. Yeah. In the book, World Beyond the Poles, which is a book that I've tried to get through numerous times, and it's really, it's tough for me to get my head around what the guy's saying a lot of the times. You go north, but you're not really going north. You're going into a different plane, or it's really tough to get my head around what he is saying. However, there is one really good part towards the beginning where he talks about the fact that the human eyeball is going to create, with long distances, it's going to curve. He basically supports what we're saying right now as far as it will, in the distance, it will make everything sphere around you. And
there you go.
Yeah. And so I personally think that we have two things at play. I think we have the natural spherical projection that our eyeballs create when we're looking up. But I also believe that we've got some layer of something, well, like I say, whether it's glass, plasma, energy, just whatever, electromagnetic field, whatever it is, I think we've got something that acts as a barrier and is also curved around us. I'm not saying it's a snow globe and we're sealed in at Antarctica, but I do think that the sky is the limit, as the expression goes. And not only that, but the sky is dome shaped. I'll say that.
In that video with the dome and the meme I made out of it, I have a thing that says the real sun, which is the light on the end of the pen light, and then the sun that we see, which kind of just manifests in the dome, and it looks like a sun.
Right.
And it works. And so I came up with an experiment. I haven't done it yet, and anyone's welcome to try this. Is get a sheet pan, put water in it, some soapy water in it, and blow a bunch of bubbles, a few little personal 1-inch bubbles around it. So you have them spread out through the pan. Then turn the lights out and get a pen light and hold it, circle it around the top. Circle it around the center point and make wider circles and narrower circles. And if you can somehow film where the light is on the bubble, I think that you're going to see these different sunsets for the inner circles and the outer circles and relative to the position of the sun. Is. And to where the real sun is, right. The pen light. So if somebody wants to try to film that and do a better job than I'm going to do, I welcome it.
And it just, when you mentioned this to me earlier before we started the broadcast, I was thinking that's a great idea, and I was totally in favor of you saying it on the air because it's great to get everyone experimenting. But when you said it again, I thought of a better way possibly to record the results would be to up the scale a little bit, Dave. If someone out there has a kiddie pool, would that work?
Well, I don't even think you need to go on that big of a scale. Just a big sheet pan with some, if you go with a kiddie pool, then the bubbles are going to be much smaller because you can't get a bubble to last that, the bigger the bubble is, the shorter the time period it's going to last. You could do it, the bigger the better, but the harder it gets.
Yeah.
I'm gonna start with my biggest cookie sheet.
There you go. There you go.
Baking
Start
pan.
small.
And all I need is like 3 or 4 or 5 bubbles in there, maybe 10, and a way to film it. I'm hoping that the light manifests on the bubble the same way that it does in the glass dome.
Right. And I'm gonna look into some kids products where you can make big bubbles in the water.
Yeah.
Because back at the house, I think we've got a kiddie pool tucked away in the attic or something somewhere. And I think we may, if your cookie sheet works the way we think it is, way it does, I think you could also do it in a shallow kiddie pool and put 30 or so large bubbles and get the same effect and possibly record the results really well.
Right. Should be interesting. Just a thought I had late last night, and I'm going to do it.
Speaking of home experiments, I found a channel. I don't know if you've ever seen it, Dave. It's called Good Times for All.
Oh, yeah. Zach Zambala.
Yeah. But it's spelled GUDTIMS for all. And he's been doing a lot of home experiments with the glass dome, the glass magnifying dome, lasers, that sort of thing. And I thought I just think it's awesome when we see more and more channels, more and more people, real people out there popping up doing experiments.
Another great channel, and we have lots of their videos on our Facebook page. I've been posting videos when people ask the same questions again and again. I embed a video that explains it because you can only answer it so many times. But the Potter's Clay,
of course,
one of your favorites. Yeah, they've been killing it. He brought up a good. I think it was him that brought it up. That said, the tweaker shelter that they call the Moonlander. Made of curtain rods, duct tape, and foil. If you believe that worked on the moon, then you should feel safe getting in it and having it submerged underwater like a submarine.
Ooh, that's true.
Do you imagine? I mean, there's
pressure
no
differential
way.
is the same. Yeah.
It doesn't matter. It should hold out water and not collapse. And there's no way the duct tape would come off, the tinfoil would rip, and you'd be dead.
Wow, that's a very, very that's a very good point.
Just if someone's unfamiliar with it, look up the Moonlander, high-res picture of the Moonlander, look
Lunar
at
module.
it, and ask yourself if you would use that, lunar module, if you would use that as a submarine.
Well, and again, I think we've mentioned this on the podcast before, but while we're on the subject of lunar module, it's like, go back and you read the history of NASA, and it's like they tried several times to get that thing to work on Earth, and they never got it to work successfully. They never succeeded with that. And so we're to believe that they just said, okay, we've never...
You mean where they tried to use thrusters to make it balance in the air?
Yeah. They tried to get it to go up and down and land safely and get back up. They tried all that on Earth. And it's like, we're to believe that...
Well, that's because it's 6 times the amount of gravity. It's 6 times as hard on
Sure, but still, we're to believe that they said, you know what? We never gotten it to work, probably due to a gravity difference, but... What the heck? We're going to send the guys up anyway, tape it together with some curtain rods and some duct tape, and put 2 living astronauts in there and just try it out anyway. Oh, and what do you know? It worked perfectly.
Yeah, and God forbid one guy shifts his body weight to the left or to the right.
Yeah. I came across a video the other day that I actually did with someone a year and a half ago where we were discussing the moon landing, and one of the things that came up, I was watching the video, it was like, oh, I remember doing this, was the buggy that they sent up. And when you look at the specs, the little rover, the moon rover.
You mean the Jeep?
Yeah, the Jeep.
The Army Jeep.
They cruised around, right?
Yeah.
There were so many things in the video we did on that. And I can't remember the title or the channel that has it up there somewhere. It's somewhere. I'll try to find that link later on. But anyhow, we were pointing out all the problems with this. And one of them was the fact that it was like, if you look at the specs for that thing, the Jeep, it weighs like 480 pounds, right? So they got 480 pounds added to the guy's trip down in the little lunar module. But then that's 500 pounds less when you're sending it back, the guys back up to the ship, if you will. So how do they account for the weight difference? They never explain that.
And the fact that it's now the ship's going to be off balance because there's no way that was exactly in the center.
That's what I mean. It's like, where did they put it, and how do they make up for the weight differential and the placement differential?
It's simple, Jay. They use maths.
Maths, yeah, right.
Yes, lots of maths.
Lots of maths that we wouldn't understand, us common folk.
Yeah, Where'd you get your degree?
Yeah, exactly. And not only that, but like you look at the lunar module itself, and you go, hey, where did they put the damn thing? I know they said it was able to be folded up, but come on, really? There were so many problems with that.
I wish we could just go back, but we've lost the technology, and it would be too painful to rebuild it.
Yeah, it would be too painful. Just too painful. Painful on who? On you guys' reputation? Yes. One of the things I find repeated a lot along the lunar module problems and the moon landing problems, everybody says, well, we've lost the technology. We've lost the tapes. We've lost the telemetry data. Just a couple times recently, people have asked me about telemetry data, and I wanted to try to explain that one more time, exactly what it is and what it means, because I think it's very important that for the flat Earth or the anti-NASA side, if we're going to regurgitate something, we should know what that is, right?
Yep.
As far as telemetry data goes, and the best way I can explain that to anyone is picture a jungle gym, like when you're kids, right? So what you have basically is crossbars up and down like a graph in 3 dimensions. Okay, so you've got X and Y axes, but you've got it in 3 dimensions. Okay, and you start at the bottom corner. Well, telemetry data is a way of marking at what point in space you are and when. So picture this thing that's like 10 by 10 jungle gym style, like bars, right? Are you with me? Like a cube.
Yep.
Okay. If we start at the bottom corner on the left side and we call that our Earth, the telemetry data would be the information that NASA gets back that explains exactly, using the other bars and other intersections of bars as a reference point as to where the Apollo ships went, right? Which is super important. Now, not only is it important to imagine, but imagine also now that we're trying to get from the bottom left corner on one side of the front side to the top right corner on the back, but both corners are now moving. One is spinning at 1,000 miles an hour at the equator. One is also spinning at a lot slower rotation, the moon, but they're also going around the sun too. So it's a moving 3-dimensional cube. That telemetry data would be I can't even explain it. To me, it would be more important to preserve than the videotapes or anything else to do with the moon landings. I mean, it would be the most important thing you save.
It's actually so complicated. Thank God they faked it. They didn't have to save it.
Yeah, it would be the most complicated set of.
But they did it on a Nintendo, on something that had the power of a Nintendo One.
Yeah, it was like a wristwatch power.
Yeah.
I mean, come on, man. It's just telemetry data is where you are in space in reference to where you started in space. And when you're talking about 2 rotating and revolving bodies, that is just, like I say, it's more important to me than the solar shielding or it's the most important factor in the Apollo missions themselves. And to say that we've lost it is just absolutely ludicrous. So I wanted to put that out there because I know that we all say that a lot, but I think when you really understand what that means, telemetry data, you understand the significance of how bad of a loss that is if it was real.
Hey, before we take a break and go come back with a bunch of backlog speak pipes because of your long absence, I wanted to put a call out to anybody that has a drone, a good drone that can get up to altitude. I think that what I'm trying to capture is it has to be literally freezing, 32 degrees Fahrenheit or colder, super dry air, cold day, and super clear, and film the sunset. Start at 10 minutes before the sun is supposed to set, from at least, depending on your terrain, but you want to be higher than anything within 100 miles or so. And watch the sunset, because the sun setting in those conditions is completely different than the sun setting over water, over a humid location, also from ground level, because there's usually something in the distance that's over your eye level.
Gotcha.
So anyone that can try to compile footage like that, that's, I did a couple live streams of it. I think next time I'm just going to film it in 4K and then do a live stream and review it. That's what Jaron and I are going to plan on. But all of those things have to come into play. Low wind, super clear day, cold temperature, and
dry.
And dry, and being available at sunset.
Yeah, of course. No, I all of those things I think play such a huge impact on that. And what's so amazing to me is that we're all learning this like gradually, looking at Rob Skiba's experiment, going back to last year where he puts the water to see it magnifying the sun, right?
Right.
We're learning all this, and now we're all aware of how much of a huge part this refraction, magnification, the lensing effect of the atmosphere, the distance, and the like you just said, that the climate that you're in, all that plays such a huge part. But yet, the number one science explanation when they're on the news or in one of these quick articles is always the Eratosthenes experiment, in which they compensated zero for any of these effects when he was actually measuring the distance, the angles to the sun, and used that to determine that the Earth is round.
Right. If anybody comes to you, what about Eratosthenes? Just go to our YouTube, our Facebook page, and go to the videos section and look for the one that says Eratosthenes was wrong. Short video. Basically it just shuts that down. Speaking of the magnification, though, you know how if you're in the north in the winter, the sun is farther away, and therefore the sun should be smaller. But that's not what I've been noticing. What I've been noticing, especially towards the end of the day when the sun's really far away, is that the sun is bigger than it is in July. That at 2 hours, 3 hours before sunset. In December, January, the sun is bigger than 2 hours, 3 hours before sunset in July on some days. Mm-hmm. Now, on colder days, it's not as big. Again, this is my hypothesis. It's what I've been observing, but I need to observe it, 6 ways to Sunday. Solar filters,
Sure.
I have to document everything.
Yeah.
But I want people just to think about that, because the sun is gigantic in the afternoon these days. It's very, very interesting.
Yeah, and of course, like we said, the time of year, not just because of where the sun is, but the time of year as far as the temperature goes, the climate, all that stuff is going to play a factor. So yeah, lots of data would be needed. But I agree, it definitely plays a part. And again, I'm not sure if the Eratosthenes video covers it, but I just think it's ludicrous that their Eratosthenes excuse that they throw out on every occasion they can is it does not take anything like this into effect.
Correct.
There was a couple other things I wanted to bring up before we go to a break, Dave.
And I got one more.
Okay, so yeah, you're making a call out. I wanted to make a call out because we got an email from Stephen. I'll just say I won't say his last name, Stephen M. And he sent over a file of Steve Austin talking about the flat Earth, and I couldn't open it, and I'm dying to open that. So if you could possibly send a link or send it in a different format, because I've got some connections in that
Steve
world.
Austin, the $6 million man.
Yes, the $6 million man, of course. No, the pro wrestler Stone Cold, Steve Austin, and it's been teasing me now for a couple weeks since it came in. It's like I saved the email, and it's like, oh my gosh, really? Like I'm dying to hear what he said, because he said he mentions or says something to the effect or to make Stephen M think that Steve Austin might in fact be a flat earther. And if that's the case, I'm gonna do everything I can.
A lot of these, I'm torn. You know how with pro wrestling, one, it's fake. Two, that whole thing with the Twin Towers, the terrorists are taking down the Twin Towers, that whole big thing before 9/11. So that just tells me there's something going on there. But I've been getting lots of interview requests from pro wrestlers, and I just did one with Jericho, Steve Jericho, and it's the podcast. Chris Jericho.
Yeah.
And it's Talk is Jericho.
Yeah.
And it should be coming out any day now. He puts out a lot. But I think I did pretty well.
Yeah.
That's just me.
No, I think that's great that he had you on. First of all, the Talk is Jericho podcast, it has a huge audience. I'm a subscriber. I've listened to it for years, since he's been on, actually, and a wide range of guests, probably a very diverse audience. And so, hats off to Chris for having you on and doing that and covering it. But as far as the wrestlers go, just my opinion, and I think I've mentioned on the show before, I've got a little bit of experience in the pro wrestling world. No, I've never been a pro wrestler. In fact, I would make a terrible wrestler, but I've got lots of friends in the industry, many of them old timers, several of them in WWE now. And I personally think, don't be torn when it comes to talking to those guys, because I think they're a great audience that needs to hear the flat earth information, because the ones that I know anyway, a lot of the guys who come from the old time part of the industry, 20 or 30 years ago, they're brought into that with a very suspicious mentality. They don't trust promoters. They often don't trust other guys in the locker room, etc. And they're not above, for them to think that they're being lied to by the authority it's not foreign to their ears. So I think the flat earth stuff is right up their alley. And hats off to Chris, like I say, for having you on.
I have to give Chris a shout out. It was just him and I. He would ask one question at a time. He'd listen to the answer. It was one of the best discussions I've had with a Globe believer, but he's open to anything. But he asked all the good questions.
Wow.
And it was a good show. So
no, I got nothing but respect for that guy, and his podcast does great numbers, and he's turned into a great podcast host. So I'm the same way. I haven't heard your conversation with him. However, I have no doubt that he treated you like that, because Chris is a good guy from everything I've known. And I can't wait to hear that. Really, that is so awesome.
Yeah, it should be out I was expecting it out already, but he's keeps dropping other shows.
Did
out.
he listen to? Has he heard the Flat Earth podcast?
I forget. He may have. I sent him a link. I'm
Good.
sure, or maybe he did hear it. Maybe he did hear it, and that's why he called.
Yeah, maybe so. That is awesome. Good. Hats off to Chris.
So, hey, talk about predictive programming. This is the one thing I wanted to bring up. I'm not sure you've heard this. I've put it out there, so some may have heard this before. But do you know that Werner von Braun in 1952, Werner von Braun, the Nazi scientist, head of NASA, wrote a book called Project Mars. You aware of this?
No. Do tell. Go on.
It's available on Amazon still, which imagine that human colonists on Mars would be led by a person called Elon.
Are you kidding me?
I'm not kidding you. Look it up. It's called Project Mars by Werner von Braun. Project Mars, about people living on Mars, led by a guy named Elon. And if you talk about symbolism, we got the 9-headed dragon rocket, run by Elon Musk. That's where you have to go to Effed Up World and watch his videos about all the symbolism. I truly am starting to believe wholeheartedly that all of this stuff, everything the elite do, are just ceremonial
garbage
rituals to conjure in their reality,
right?
To conjure in if you want to call it prophecy or whatever it is, they're conjuring this into existence.
Yeah. So is it called the Mars Project?
It's called Project Mars.
Oh, okay. I see one called
Project Mars by Werner, Wernher von Braun, Braun.
So the one on Amazon right now that I just pulled up is listed as the Mars Project, but
Nope.
either way,
It's there.
So that's got to be it, right?
No, it's Project Mars. I saw it recently.
Okay, well then something Mandela affected you.
Really?
Yeah, because right now it's totally, and they show the cover of the book. It's Werner von Braun, The
Mars Project.
Yeah.
Okay, well, maybe they just Mandela'd me.
Yeah, you just got Mandela right here on the air.
But there it is. It was 1952, and it's a story about a colony on Mars led by a guy named Elon. You can't make this stuff up.
Yep, and this is now officially ordered on my end.
Nice work.
Yep, bought and paid for as we speak. So I can't wait to get that. And one more thing, speaking of books, Dave, I've had the two books I mentioned, Beyond the Poles, a little while ago when we were talking. I've had that, and what is the other one? Paradise Found?
Okay.
You know the book? You've heard of that one, right?
I have heard of it. I have not read it.
Okay, so Paradise Found is the guy who used to be the president, I think, of Boston University.
Okay.
And he is the guy that makes the case. He wasn't a flat earther, but he's William F. Warren is his name. And he's the guy that's basically saying, it says it in the title, it's Paradise Found, the cradle of the human race at the North Pole, a study of the prehistoric world. And I've had both of these books now for probably almost 2 years. I started with Beyond the Poles, and it got so convoluted and weird to me that I kind of put it away. And I've got the worst habit when it comes to books. Someone mentions one on a YouTube video or an interview, and I'm like, boom, ordered, just like we just did, right? And I get it, I read a little bit, and then I never finish it. I never read it. So I finally picked up Paradise Found the other day, and I started reading it. And so far, it is awesome. Really awesome. He's making the case that things like Eden in the Bible and all these other places are, in fact, those lands that we've seen on those old maps around the North Pole.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That Martin Kenny, the cosmic egg guy that talks about the Mars is the Mars-Venus system, which is beyond Antarctica. It's the next ring, and Mars and Venus are a sun and a moon.
Right.
Venus has phases, like our moon has phases. Mars is the sun of that system.
Yeah.
And when NASA says they're going to Mars, they very well might be going to Mars. We had the Apollo missions. Our sun is Apollo. Well, we're already in the
Apollo
system.
round ring.
Yeah, we're in the Apollo system.
Yeah.
So the Mars system, the Mars Venus Sun Moon system is right outside.
Well, let me add something real quick. What was, I believe, before the Apollo missions was the Mercury missions.
Yeah,
and that would be the center.
That would be the center.
So they started the center. Then they go to the big ring.
For anybody that is literally just losing their mind right now, you have to look up. It's embedded on our page. Sage of Quay has it. Martin Kenny and the Cosmic Egg. Sage of Quay did a great interview. Sophia Smallstorm just did a really good podcast. You could find that on her website, aboutthesky.com, in her podcast section. And I really like what Martin is talking about. It really resonates with me.
Yeah, and I think it's important to note the play on words that they use, if in fact that is anywhere close to true. The fact that they haven't lied when they say that they are researching and traveling. Well, not just going to Mars, but outer space.
The outer space. We're in the inner space.
It's the space on the outer ring. The outer rings. Oh my gosh! When you told me about it, and I went and watched the video of his presentation. My mind was blown. Completely.
You need Sophia Smallstorm's interview with him about the sky on her podcast page. Worth to listen to. She brought him into some new places, I think, and it's fascinating stuff.
So what we'll do here, I think, is take a quick break. We'll come back, do some speak pipes, but at the top of the program, you heard a snippet of the new Flat Earth Man satellite hoax. And what we're going to do, which is another great single by the Flat Earth Man, what we're going to do, we'll take a break right now. We'll come back, catch up on some speak pipes, and then after that, for our final segment, we'll go ahead and play the full single. How's that?
You think we could do that?
Yeah, from the Flat Earth Man. All right.
He's working on another video. I'm sure it's gonna be as amazing as his others.
Yes. He's gonna have a full album before you know it, and
yeah,
that's gonna be awesome. All right, cool deal. We'll be right back with some speak pipes.
Following announcement has been paid for by
The Flat Earth Podcast.
Looking for a great Christmas gift idea for friends and loved ones, or just a way to spread the truth about the flat Earth? Head over to theflatearthpodcast.com and click on the link that brings you to the book, The Greatest Lie on Earth, Proof That Our World Is Not a Moving Globe by Edward Henry.
Right on the webpage, we have an image of the book there. If you click it, that'll take you to Amazon, right to the book buying page, and you could buy it there. Also, any other shopping that you're going to be doing this holiday season, if you use that link, Amazon will be forced to give a few % of their profits over to Jeranism so it can help expose NASA and the truth about the flat Earth.
The Flat Earth Podcast.
If you're a fan of the Flat Earth Podcast and you want to help us out, here's something simple you can do. Just find the page for the Flat Earth Podcast on iTunes and leave us a review. You can leave us a star rating and a short comment summarizing why you enjoy the show. And these reviews will help our iTunes review average. So head over to iTunes and leave us a quick review. Tell us why you love the Flat Earth Podcast.
The Flat Earth Podcast.
All right, back on the Flat Earth Podcast, and Dave, we're about to crack open a large can of speak pipes.
How many do we have?
I couldn't even count. Like I had to go 2 or 3 pages deep on the website to get to what I believe is the oldest one. So here's what we're going to do. As always, we have not pre-listened to these. We've not previewed them. So, we can't be responsible for what's about to happen.
I heard a couple of them, but I've completely forgotten since it's been so long since since you've been MK Ultra'd.
Since I ultra'd. Yeah, since I ultra'd out. All right, here we go. This one is going to be from Josh R.
Hey guys, just wanted to say thank you for all that you do. It's been about 4 or 5 days now. I've starting to awaken. It was actually on my birthday. I turned 39 on December 3rd this year, just a few days ago. Got a little thing, and it should the face you make when you realize the Earth is flat, and clicked on it because I was like laughing at it. I was like, "What? Who thinks that?" And yeah, it just started my journey. I'm listening to you guys' podcast, love it. Do a lot of driving, and really right now I'm just sitting here listening to your podcast, and I love it. Thanks, guys. I can't wait for just to kind of go on this discovery. And I got a 7-year-old son, and he's already laughing at pictures of the globe and going, fake. So I love it. Thanks, guys.
All right. Thank you, Josh. We appreciate that.
Wow, that's such a nice message. He's only how far? Like a week in to being a flat earther?
Yeah, just a few days, he said. That's awesome, Josh. And I think what's one thing, one really important note for everyone on that is how he got in was a simple meme.
Oh, I love that meme. That's one of my favorites.
Yeah.
I have that one, yeah.
The face you make. And so if anyone out there, has questioned how powerful a meme can be, Josh's speak pipe will testify to that. If it wakes up one person, that's awesome. Here we go with the next one, Dave. This is going to be from Jason.
Hi, guys. This is Jason. I just wanted to say you have a great show. I started listening to you pretty recently, and everything you guys are talking about is pretty much where my research has led me. One of the questions I get asked a lot when telling people about this stuff is, why would everyone lie about such a thing? And or what's the purpose behind all of this, or the conspiracy? And for the most part, the simplest answer that I have is it's all spiritual warfare, and they're trying to hide God from us and get us to worship all these other different things. Normally, they're just kind of different names of Lucifer. But anyways, great show, guys. Just wanted to see what your guys' take is on that, and I'll be listening. So, yeah, have a great day, guys. Bye.
Right. Jason, I think had a connection problem there. It was a little staticky. We apologize for that. That was on the original call. But, good call, Jason. And, Dave, what do you say? What do you think as far as the people say why?
The hide God and to hide who we really are, and that we have a choice, and that we are powerful beings, and that we don't need to be slaves, and the list goes on and on. So the saying that when some people say What does it matter? I still have to go to work. Those are the most indoctrinated people.
So, one quick thing I want to mention in answering that question, and also in explaining something that I meant to bring up in the last segment, was I've got a friend of mine who's very open-minded, conspiratorially speaking, but he's never heard of flat Earth or the NASA stuff. So I'm running a current little experiment where I finally trust the guy enough to I want to approach him with flat Earth. But what I've done here is not even touched flat Earth or water or anything curving. Simply the NASA space is fake as we know it approach. And I'm going to try to get him on board with that. And I'm sending him things and that sort of thing. And then I'm going to move into the flat world, right? And one of the things that comes up very early, even if you approach it this way, just like the flat Earth, is immediately one of the first things he asked me was, yeah, but why? Right? So I couldn't go into it, forced me to eliminate the hiding God thing because I'm not even there yet, right? And I just said, dude, have you looked at their budget? It's 20 billion this year, $20 billion. If it's not real, imagine how much they're profiting. If they're not really going where they say they are, and they're just simply giving us BS videos, etc. And it totally resonated with him. He got it. You know what I mean? So, in speaking of the why, if you're out there and you don't want to go, just say you're not into the spiritual aspect of it, which I personally think it's the hiding God was the original reason for the flat Earth deception. But you could always go with the money. You know what I mean? Look at the profit motivation here.
Or just the control. The control, not letting people know that there's more.
Yeah, the power, right?
Favorite line, there's nothing else to find, Truman. It's all been discovered.
That's right. That's right. So anyway, I just want to bring that up. All right, here we go. The next one is from Jamie.
Hey guys, great show. I had a question. I was wondering if you could explain how density and buoyancy works in zero G. Thanks, guys.
Okay, so density and buoyancy in zero G.
I'll give you. I think I know what he means. So there's a lot of flat earthers out there that say that there is no gravity. There's just density and buoyancy, and things go down. I'm not on that page, actually. I believe that there is a force that it's an electrostatic force that essentially pulls everything towards the surface of the Earth. So it's electrically being pulled towards the surface of the Earth, and density and buoyancy works like that. So he's asking, how would density and buoyancy work in zero G? I don't think it would work if there is such a thing as zero G. Things would just float. And that's it. Again, on the Facebook page, it's a Globebusters clip where Bob is talking about the real gravity. So it's go to the videos page, and it's called The Real Gravity. Check it out if you don't know what we're talking about.
I'm right there with you. I think that there's an electrostatic force, much like I use Bob's example all the time with people, is much like the dust particles on an old TV will stick. They'll get, the static electricity will pull them to the TV screen itself. And
a great experiment is get a balloon, rub it on your head to make it all staticky, and then turn your faucet on so there's a nice, smooth, non-bubbled stream going on, and hold the balloon near the water and watch what the water does. It'll go sideways.
Right. It'll pull it. And so that would explain the force, and that would explain what is up, and that dictates what direction is up and down, is that static force right there.
There you go.
And so, yeah, I'm right there with you. As far as zero G goes, I think that you have to look at it like, well, all objects are currently falling in zero G, right?
That's what zero G is. I mean, he's talking, in the heliocentric model, you can go into deep space and nothing is pulling on you, but there is no such thing as deep space. So it's a straw man question. Yeah.
It sure is. And I think the zero G, I think if everything is falling simultaneously because of the electrostatic, because of the density of the objects being heavier than the air around it, and because of the plane itself dropping down, then yeah, density and buoyancy are currently at that moment kind of a non-issue because everything is falling. It's like being in an elevator. Everything's falling at once. All right. The next one is from Guitar Guy Jay.
Hey guys, this is Jay. I wanted to thank you so much for putting out the Flat Earth podcast and for spreading the truth. And I have 3 questions/comments for you. The first question is, on a flat Earth model in our reality, what do you really think shooting stars are? The second question is what is the equator on a flat Earth model? How does that work? And how do seasons work? How come some states and countries are hotter than others and more tropical? And then my third comment is about the stationary Earth according to ancient civilization. Of course, in the Bible and the Upanishads, they both agree that the Earth is stationary and that there is a dome above us and that there's celestial objects revolving around us. And also in the video, These Facts Will Blow Your Mind by Captain Obvious. If you skip to 10 minutes and 15 seconds, he goes through about 20 or 30 ancient civilizations with the same paradigm. So if you guys can maybe comment on that. Thank you.
All right, Jay, that was a bunch there, a bunch of topics. Let me, I know we've got on the Facebook page, we've got several videos that you've put up, Dave, as far as explaining the seasons, right?
Right. So there's one called The Sun Explained, which is a Stinky Cash movie video. It shows how the sun goes in and out. And then seasons, Arctic versus Antarctic in seasons. If you watch that, you'll understand. So seasons happen because of the distance of the sun from where you are. It's not the angle of the sun, although the angle, when it's farther away, you have a lower angle. And it's cooler, at the end of the day and the beginning of the day. But it's the distance that the sun is from you that creates the season.
Yes.
And then the equator, the sun makes small circles around the inside, which is the closest it gets to the center is the Tropic of Cancer. And then it goes all the way out to the Tropic of Capricorn, which is the widest circle it takes. And halfway in between those is the equator. It's when it's is that the word? Equidistant?
Equidistant.
Equidistant. Equidistant.
Tomato,
from
Dave.
the inside and from the outside. So that's what the equator is in my book.
Yeah, and one quick little example I've used in a conversation recently with someone that may help to visualize that, or may not, may be terrible, I don't know. But if you picture the old school record player, right, you start the needle on the outside, and because of the rings on the record, it spirals inward to the middle. So just imagine for a second that we're not using the device to play music, but taking that spiral path into account, and imagine the needle is a heat source. So when the needle is close to the center, what area of the record is going to be the hottest? Wherever that ring is, wherever that needle is going around. When it's on the outside, your outer edges will be warmer than the inner section of the record. So if you remember records and record players, if you're of that generation, then maybe that'll help. Oh, and one thing he brought up right at the beginning, Dave?
Shooting stars.
Shooting stars, I got no clue.
That's a great answer. I have no clue, but some people, there's been some experiments done with electricity and sprites and, little electrical charges going by. I think it was Carly Sunshine was talking about, is it possibly water along the dome and it's being electrostatically charged of some sort? We have no idea. We haven't been there. But one thing you won't see is meteors going up from the horizon, which you should see if we live on a spinning ball.
That's right. That's a great answer. Here we go with the next one from David S.
Hey guys, according to your model, the sun travels above the flat Earth in a circuit, and it moves from the northern portion to the southern portion to account for the change in seasons. But when the sun is above the southern portion, it would experience a longer day than the northern portion, unless the sun changes speeds to maintain an equal 24-hour period. Do you believe that the sun changes speeds as it moves from the north to the south and vice versa? And if so, what accounts for this change?
All right. Thank you, David S. And how appropriate that question actually came right after the previous discussion. That was awesome.
So if you believe that the sun is a physical object like heliocentrism teaches us, it changing speeds seems nearly impossible. But I believe that the sun that we see is not the real sun, and it's not a physical sun. It's a focused energy, like we were talking about on the dome. So it could be as simple as the sun being projected to different areas on the dome. It may not change speed. If you have hold a flashlight pointing down and put it at a little bit of an angle and start making circles, right, with your hand or whatever you have it on. If you point it out farther and move your hand at the same speed, that sun that wherever it's flashing on will go faster, even though the flashlight is not moving any faster. Does that make sense?
Wait. Say the last part again.
So hang a flashlight from a string,
right?
But hang it so the string is tied on, 2/3 of the way up, so it's at a little bit of an angle.
Okay.
And spin the flashlight so it's making the spotlight on the floor is making a circle, and we'll call that circle the Tropic of Cancer. Right now, move the string so it's pointing out farther and spin it at the same speed. Mm-hmm. Even though it's at the same speed, the flashlight on the floor over the Tropic of Capricorn will be going much faster, even though the flashlight is going the same speed.
Right. Because of the angle, you're saying.
It's just the angle that it's hitting the dome of vision. I don't know if those are the right words, but
no.
That's how I see it.
Right. If you think of the sun as let's just say for a second, the light itself, the sun we see as a projection, a manifestation of the original light source, then yes, that could totally explain it.
Yep. So think about that. Next.
All right. Next up, here we go. There we go. Let's see. This one is from John S.
Hey guys, John Summers here from the UK in Leicester. Just a real quick question. Keep trying to defend the flat Earth side for the people that find it hard to accept when they ask me questions. One of the main questions that keeps coming up is they say to me, if the Earth's flat, how do you explain a lunar eclipse? I'm not sure if you've already covered it on your show. I've been listening so much, I can't really remember. That'd be great if you could cover that. And also, I was just thinking the other day, how would a compass work properly on a spherical object? Well, obviously it doesn't, but I just wondered what your thoughts were, and if you could elaborate on that a little bit more, that'd be great. Cheers, guys. Keep up the good work.
Right. Thank you, John. Okay, so the compass itself, I find when you explain both models clearly to anyone, I think makes way more sense on the flat Earth.
It makes no sense on a ball Earth.
Right.
None.
Right.
Zero.
In fact, when you look up the instructions for any compass, or Google how to use a compass, every time you do this, it's going to tell you lay your compass flat.
Right.
And I've heard the counterpoints to this, et cetera. But bottom line is if you picture putting that compass even flat on the bottom southern hemisphere side of the globe, it should be pulled to the center to get to the north rather than pulled in any certain direction.
The Globers will say that the magnetic fields wrap around the ball and it follows those magnetic lines. It's an argument you can just never win. But if you want to know how eclipses work, just know how they don't work on a ball. And I always bring it up all the time, where the sun and moon are have been viewed above the horizon at the same time as the lunar eclipse starts, and the shadow or the darkening of the moon comes in from the top.
From the opposite side, if you look up, I think it's Eclipse, lunar eclipse, December 2011, I believe.
Yep.
There's several videos of non-flat earthers who filmed the lunar eclipse, showing what Dave was just explaining, where the shadow comes in from the top. Both the sun and the moon are above the horizon in the sky. Should be totally impossible. And again, that's what I was going to say to that answer as far as how does the lunar eclipse work on the flat Earth. My response to people when they ask me about eclipses is to explain the flaws and the huge problems with both eclipses on the globe model. And to say, quite frankly, I can't explain specifically what that shadow is on the moon. But I can't tell you why what we've been sold as the working model just does not work.
Right. And Bill Nye, the failed comedian, has brainwashed everybody that only a sphere can cast a spherical shadow on another sphere. I defy anyone. Take a ball, shine a light on it, and use the edge of a book and cast a shadow, and you'll see that it's a curved shadow. But if you really want to learn about eclipses, best video ever, I think it is the Potter's Clay again. I'm not sure. Don't quote me on that. It's on our Facebook page, and it's called Eclipses Don't Work on a Globe. It's 52 minutes long. There's two shorter ones about eclipses. You can watch those too, but the technical one, Eclipses Don't Work on a Globe, Eclipse of Fantasy, it's called.
Yeah, and on top of that, if you're driving or just have extra time, you can go back and listen to the episodes of this podcast in August and September, especially because no matter what the title or what the topic or the guest is that week, I think almost every week we talked about problems with the eclipse.
Bringing up eclipses on the show is like talking about drinking with an alcoholic. Jay gets very triggered.
Yes.
And he goes down a rabbit hole, and sometimes there's no getting out. So let's move to the next question.
Damn it, John, why did you bring that up? All right, here we go. This is Travis, I believe.
Hey, Dave. Just heard your podcast, and you said something about stars are different or are not different 6 months apart, looking up at them or something like that. They are different. The stars that are up right now at midnight are different than the stars that will be up in 6 months from now at midnight. Go outside and take a picture, and then go outside in 6 months from now and take a picture. Of course, this being at night and close to about the same time at night. Good luck.
Okay, thanks, Travis. I don't remember the episode that he's talking about, Dave. I don't know if you do, but
I do, and I think that we described it a little incorrectly, and he is right.
100%.
The way it works on a ball, in theory, and on the flat Earth are very similar in results.
Yes.
Again, on a spinning ball, you ask me, you're 190 million miles on the other side of the sun, tilted away. You shouldn't even be able to see the same northern stars, which you can see.
Right.
You see the same stars, like if I'm at 30 degrees north, anything within 30 degrees of Polaris, you can see all year long.
Yes. And I don't know if it was Travis who sent the email, but somebody recently sent over an email saying that you don't see different stars different times of the year, but you totally do. And I thought to myself, we didn't say that because, and I'm not arguing what they're saying because we may have at some point misspoke.
I think we did say it.
Right. But the point is that, yes, we totally see, you can see different constellations in June than you can December. And so if we said that, it was a total, like I say, a mistake in what we were saying. Maybe we got caught up. But I don't think either one of us, Dave, have ever believed that you see the same constellations year round. You do not. And on the flat Earth, you can just picture it as like a chandelier, spinning over a flat Earth for a second, just as an example. But the speed that it's spinning is a little bit slower than the speed of a full circuit of the sun. So what you have is each day you lose a little bit of time. So your night side is going to see the other side of the chandelier for certain months than it will the opposite time of year, if that makes sense.
Correct. And also the setting and rising of the sun blocks out some of the stars that you would see because they're there. It's just longer days in the summer cut out the stars that you would see early at night.
Exactly. All right. So Dave, we've covered a good bit of them. We did not get to the most recent speak pipe. Hopefully maybe next week we can go ahead and finish them off and then we'll be current and caught up on those. But I say we wrap it up and we play the Flat Earth Man song, the full single.
The unreleased. He's working on the video, which will be amazing. And here comes the world premiere of the satellite hoax by conspiracy guru YouTube channel, The Flat Earth Man.
Yes, and we're going to go ahead after we finish recording this, and we're going to record another episode so that we won't have to wait so long for the next one. But thanks for joining us here on the Flat Earth Podcast. Hats off to The Flat Earth Man. Keep them coming, and we'll keep playing them. Thanks, everyone, and see you next time.
hard pill to take when somebody says that satellites could be fake. But don't you find it a little suspicious that you can't find any real satellite pictures? It might be hard to be believed, but maybe we're all being deceived. Yeah, maybe, Listen up. Well, if you think you see one up in the sky, you can't see him with the naked eye, because a satellite is about the size of a car, at least 300 miles away. You can't see that far, whatever those dots are to move in the night. I'm telling you, there ain't no satellite. Welcome to the satellite, folks. Just another one of them NASA jokes. You get by me a picture of a satellite without bringing up a bunch of that CGI. Just a bunch of cartoons all over the place. When I search satellites in space. Yeah, type that phrase into Google, folks. Let me welcome you to the satellite host. Before all of y'all start getting pissed, I ain't saying that satellites don't exist. I'm saying that it's theoretically absurd to think these devices orbit the Earth, 'cause I've seen them hanging from big balloons. Even Google's doing it too now, man. Have you seen that? Yeah, go check out Project Moon. And every now and then a satellite crashes, but that information never gets to the masses, 'cause then you find out how these things really work. They're just on balloons, man. They don't orbit the Earth. 'Cause once upon a time one crashed in Brazil with the balloon attached to its steel. Welcome to the satellite, folks. Just another one of them NASA jokes. You can't buy me a picture of a satellite without bringing up a bunch of that CGI. Just a bunch of cartoons all over the place. When I search satellites in space. Yeah, type that phrase into Google, folks. Let me welcome you to the satellite host. Yeah, check it out, man. How could satellites be in a thermosphere when the temperature up there is way too severe? How can that type of equipment survive? How comes those satellites aren't burned alive? I'm telling you, man, it's just a pack of lies. There ain't no orbiting satellites, because 99% of our communication comes from undersea cables and cell tower stations. A GPS is ground-based too, man. Go check out a system called Lunar. It's a military system for navigation that uses ground towers to track your location. Are you seeing it yet? Welcome to the satellite, folks. Just another one of them NASA jokes. You can't buy me a picture of a satellite without bringing up a bunch of that CGI. Just a bunch of cartoons all over the place. When I search satellites in space. Yeah, type that phrase into Google, folks. Let me welcome you to the satellite host. You see, Tesla figured out how to communicate without the need for satellites in space. It's mostly ground-based towers, you see, and that's how you get your satellite TV. They've monetized what Tesla made for free with their fake satellite industry. It was Arthur C. Clarke that theorized these things, the sci-fi boxes with solar wings. Another Freemason, it's no surprise. They make science fiction and they monetize. They've stolen Tesla's technology and they get you to pay for your TV. Are you seeing it now, people? Welcome to the satellite, folks. Just another one of them NASA jokes. You can't buy me a picture of a satellite without bringing up a bunch of that CGI. Just a bunch of cartoons all over the place. When I search satellites in space. Yeah, go type it into Google right now. And let me welcome you to the satellite host. So next time you see a photo of the Earth from space, look for satellites. You won't find a trace. Oh, they must have disappeared, I guess. Can't even see any from the ISS. If you want to have yourself a little enjoyment, go watch a NASA satellite deployment. Oh man, let me welcome you to the satellite polka.